you all so much. What a pleasure to be here with you guys today. So I am the Director of Elections. I've been with the office for 12 years. And within that period of time, I've become passionate about voter education. So I'm here to talk to you today about the 2024 general primary election, which is coming up. The presidential election is always held a little bit earlier. So our election will be held in April, on April 23rd. A normal election year, the primary election is held in May. So it's a little bit earlier on the presidential elections.
Why do you move it up?
I'm sorry?
Why do you move it up?
That's a state decision. I think they want to be part of the process, so they have the presidential election a little bit earlier. You're welcome. I also wanted to thank PA Youth Vote for providing this wonderful PowerPoint educational tool that I'll be using today. Okay, so
Is it not on?
clicker's not working. Oh, all right. There we go. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about offices and candidates in today's lesson. Pennsylvania has a closed primary, so what does that mean? You have to be registered with the Democratic or Republican parties to vote in the primary. So if you're registered with the Democratic Party, you're only going to get a Democratic ballot. If you're registered with the Republican Party, you're only going to get the Republican candidates. So this is an opportunity for the parties to choose their candidates to move on to the election in November. Yes, sir.
As an independent, can I change my registration to Democrat or Republican if I can see I want to vote on one ballot or another?
Absolutely. So you have 15 days before the election you have up until 15 days before the election to change your party affiliation, and then you can change your party back if you'd like. Okay. In PA, in a few other states, only registered Democrats and Republicans may vote for candidates in their party's primary. If you've registered with a third party or a non-affiliated independent, you are effectively disenfranchised in the primary election. You can only vote on the ballot questions, if any. So this election, we don't have any questions, so it's strictly Democrats and Republicans are able to vote. Choosing a party, a political ideology quiz. This is a really good quiz. Everyone in our office has been taking it, and the results are a little bit surprising. So you can take this quiz, just search isidewith.com, and there's a series of questions, and then it will give you the results and just let you know what party you're aligned with, your thinking, your values, those sort of things. The U.S. president, this is the big race that's going to be on our ballot for this election. The Democratic candidate is Joe Biden, and the Republican candidate is Donald Trump. Now, you will see that Nikki R. Haley is still listed on our ballot. She did not withdraw in time to be removed from the ballot. So you'll see that, and if somebody votes for her, those votes won't necessarily count. And the delegates to the convention. So Pennsylvania was not part of Super Tuesday, which was March 5th, which there was a lot of discussion about that. Our primary is held on April 23rd. On July 15th through the 18th, the Republican National Convention will be held. And on August 19th through the 22nd, the Democratic National Convention will be held. Pennsylvania will elect 173 delegates to attend the DNC and 67 delegates to attend the RNC. The 2024 presidential general election. This is kind of what you're going to see in November, what on the news is what they're kind of talking about. So a candidate needs 270 to win. and that predicts the likely electoral outcomes in each state. Obviously, a lot of states are still counting their mail-in ballots, but sometimes you'll see that the winning candidates are called a little bit early, and this is how they determine that. Oh, let me go back one. All right, U.S. Senator. One of PA's 2 U.S. Senate seats are up for grabs in 2024. Incumbent Democrat Bob Casey is running for election. U.S. senators serve the entire state for 6-year terms in the U.S. Congress. The U.S. Senate currently has 51 to 49 Democratic majority. Control of the Senate is at stake. The Republican candidate is Dave McCormick. PA Attorney General. So as I go through these races, this is what's going to be on your ballot this year, okay? Now, PA Attorney General, we have 5 candidates on the Democratic side, and on the Republican side, we have 2. The Attorney General is Pennsylvania's top law enforcement official with a staff of several hundred prosecutors, attorneys, and investigator agents, and support staff in offices across the state. You can find out more at attorneygeneral.gov.
Who's the current incumbent?
That is, I'm not sure about that. I would have to look that up for you. I apologize. The PA Auditor General. The Auditor General is responsible for ensuring all state money is spent legally and properly by conducting audits. On the Democratic ticket, we have Malcolm Kenyatta and Mark Pinsley. On the Republican ticket, we have Timothy Dufour. PA Treasurer. On the Democratic side, we have Ryan Bizzarro and Aaron McClelland, both from Erie. And on the Republican side, we have Stacey Garrity. So this is a map of the PA Senate districts. And you'll see us up in the corner. We have District 49, and we also have this little part of District 21, just right there. Right in that corner right there. So it's mostly Corey up in that area. I think there are 5 voting precincts that are in District 21. And this is a map of the PA representatives districts. So registering to vote. You can register online at pa.gov. That's probably the easiest way and the most trusted source. We do recommend that you use your driver's license when you're registering online, because it does use your signature from your driver's license card to sign the document. If you use your social security number, we're going to send you a letter to get your signature. The process takes a little bit longer.
I have a question on that. Why
Yes.
is a passport not one of the documents that's listed there?
To register online, you have to use one of those identifiers to register online.
There's nothing that says that I'm a citizen for a passport.
I'm not sure what information from the passport you would use on the application. The application asks for either the last 4 of your social or your driver's license number. You can show your passport at the poll.
Well, that's true. It doesn't prove state citizenship. Is that it?
Yeah, well, your passport doesn't have a specific verifier on it. The social security number and the driver's license number are the identifier numbers that they're looking for. And when you go to vote at a poll for the first time, whether it's your first time voting or your first time voting at a new poll because you've moved, they're going to ask you for a proof of ID, and your passport is one of those. You can use your passport to show your ID at the poll. You just can't use it online. Okay? All right, so make your plan to vote Applying for a mail ballot and finding your polling place, there are several ways to cast your vote. What's the best way for you? Pennsylvania introduced the mail-in ballot in 2020. There's no excuse to apply for a mail-in ballot. We still have the traditional absentee ballot. The absentee ballot does require an excuse. So if you're going to be out of town or if you're taken ill, you can apply for an absentee ballot. The new mail-in ballot requires no excuse, or you can go to the polls. If you would like to see what the ballot's going to look like on election day, you can visit our website at eriecountypa.gov. We have some wonderful tools, but among them we have the sample ballot. So you can look up where you vote to find out your precinct code, go on our website and look at that ballot and print it out, and you could even take it with you to the polls on election day. That way you already have it all filled out and you know who you're going to vote for. So just some food for thought. What is your plan? How would you like to vote on election day or this election? I have mail-in ballot applications if you're interested in applying for a mail-in ballot. If you'd like to change your party, you have until April 9th in Erie County. So the deadline statewide is April 8th. But here in Erie County, the Board of Elections has extended the deadline to April 9th because of the solar eclipse. We're not expecting our staff members to be able to get to the office. So we extended that deadline a little bit. But we do suggest that you apply early to register to vote. Also, I brought with me poll worker interest forms. If you're interested in working at the polls, we need people to work at the polls, so you could just fill one of these out and then we'll get you assigned to a poll. Is anyone in here currently a poll worker? It's a wonderful opportunity. It does pay. You make between $185 to $220 for working a day. It's a long day. It's a 16-hour day, but it's only twice a year. We do provide training. You can get $30 for attending training. All right, so there are 3 ways to vote. In person at your designated polling place, a mail-in ballot, and then early voting. So early voting begins March 25th in Erie County at room 112 of the county courthouse during normal business hours. So next Monday, we'll start issuing ballots over the counter. You come into our office, you'll fill out an application for a mail ballot or an absentee if you're planning on leaving. You complete the application, we'll give you your ballot right then and there. You fill it out, and then you leave it with our office. We'll put it in a secure location until election day when we're allowed to open those ballots and tally them. So if you're not sure if you're going to be able to show up at your polls or have time to get a mail-in ballot, you can just come right to the office. How do you apply for a mail-in ballot? Option 1, there's an online application. Vote.pa.gov is the most trusted source to apply for your mail-in ballot. Now, it is going to ask you a few questions. It's going to ask you if you plan on being out of town or if you have an illness. And if you say yes to either of those questions, you're going to get an absentee ballot. So you could say no, and then you'll get the mail-in ballot, which is a no excuse. We also have a permanent list. So if you want to receive ballots every year for every election, you just click on the box that says you'd like to be an annual voter. And how that works is you still have to apply every year, but it's just once a year. So in February, if you're on our permanent list, we're going to send you a renewal notice. You just fill that out, send it in to us, and then you'll get your ballots automatically for that year.
If you have a mail-in ballot, can you decide you want to walk in and vote? Can you do that?
Yes, you can. So if you've applied for a mail-in ballot, you've received your ballot, hold on to it, because if you want to go to the polls instead, you have to take that ballot along with the envelopes to the poll to surrender. Once you surrender your mail-in ballot to them, you can go about voting at the polls. If you don't have that with you, then they're going to have you fill out a provisional ballot. Now, the provisional ballot will be counted once we've determined that you didn't vote your mail-in ballot. So it takes a little bit longer to be counted. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Have you already sent the application for the mail-in ballots?
For the permanent voters? Yes, sir. They were sent in February. We have to send them every February. So they were. Are you on the permanent list?
I think so.
Okay. Why don't you call my office later today and we'll get you all sorted out. Okay? Okay. I think this one is a video.
You see it? Yeah.
Oh, okay. There we go.
This is plugged into the speaker, so it should be.
Mail-in voting is an easy and secure option for PA voters to vote their ballots in any election. Anyone can vote by mail-in ballot without providing a reason. To begin, you should apply for a mail-in ballot. You can do this online, by mail, or at your county board of elections. While you are applying, you can request to be added to an annual mail-in ballot request list where you will automatically receive ballots for the remainder of the year. Your county will send you a renewal application each year. If you provide an email address when you are applying, you'll receive updates along the way as your application and ballot are processed. After your request is processed, your county board of elections will mail your ballot to you as soon as the ballot becomes available. When you receive your mail-in ballot, complete all of the ballot selections with a black or blue pen. Seal your completed ballot in the inner secrecy envelope that indicates official election ballot. Do not write anything on this envelope. Place the secrecy envelope into the pre-addressed outer return envelope. If your ballot is not enclosed in both envelopes, the ballot will not be counted. After you seal the outer envelope, sign and date the voter's declaration on the envelope. If you do not sign and date the outer envelope, the ballot will not be counted. Now that your ballot is ready to be returned, you can mail it back or hand deliver it to your county board of election or other officially designated site. If you mail it, check to see if your envelope is prepaid or if it needs postage and drop in the mail as soon as possible. Your ballot must be received by your county board of elections by 8 p.m. on election day. Postmarks do not count. When your ballot is received, your county election office will mark your ballot as received and will process the ballot for counting. If you return your voted mail-in ballot by the deadline, you may not vote at your polling place on election day. If you do not return your voted mail-in ballot by the deadline and you want to vote in person on election day, you have two options. Bring your ballot and return envelope with the voter's declaration to the polling place and turn it in so you can vote on your county's voting system. Or if you don't have your ballot, you can vote by provisional ballot at your polling place. Remember, if you received a mail-in ballot, you can avoid the lines at your polling place by hand delivering your voted ballot to an officially designated site before 8 p.m. on election day. When you use mail-in voting, you can be sure that your vote is secure and private. Visit votespa.com/mailballot to learn more about mail-in voting.
On that note, we also have 2 drop boxes here in Erie County. So if you don't want to mail your ballot. Yes, sir.
One thing they mentioned in there was you had to both sign and date the outside secrecy envelope. And I thought there was that case where where the site didn't have to, I think, date it, the thing that was limited. But then that got appealed, so what's going on with that? What's the status?
It's still being litigated right now. So one thing, you mentioned secrecy envelope. You don't want to put anything on the secrecy envelope. The secrecy envelope is the yellow envelope. If you were to write your name on that secrecy envelope, it would void your ballot because then it's no longer secret. So we wouldn't be able to count it. So you want to make sure you don't write on that yellow envelope, but you put the yellow envelope inside of the declaration envelope, the one that you sign and date. And yes, there were some back and forth. There was some talk about that, but nothing has been cleared up. So as of now, sign it and date it. Make sure that you do both of those things. Now, our office, out of a courtesy, if we've noticed when we receive your ballot that you didn't date it or you didn't sign it, we're going to set it aside and we're going to call you and say, hey, John, you didn't sign your ballot. Do you want to come in and fix this? And then you have the opportunity to come in and correct that. before Election Day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Are all of the envelopes that you're sending out already postage paid?
No.
Cannot that be construed as a poll tax?
Well, in 2020, the Department of State picked up that tab, so they paid for everyone's return envelope. But since then, they haven't done that. So,
Isn't that a weak link in the armor? Cannot somebody go to court and say, these ballots, the voter had to pay to submit his ballot? I mean, is that something people have thought through? Because I see that as a weak link in the chain. Because in the last election, I followed the instructions that were mailed to me, both by the Commonwealth and both political parties, only to have my ballot challenged in court after I submitted and complied with those rules.
so why was your ballot
I
challenged?
Mine was in that very large case that was taken to court where they were challenging the drop box in Erie. And I was thinking, what's going on with my ballot? My congressman was one of the people that signed on to that case. So I'm just concerned about people looking for a weak link in the chain and discarding people's ballots. It won't happen to me because I'm going to the polls this year.
So here's the thing about that. We actually didn't have our Dropbox challenge, so I'm not aware of any pending litigation as far as.
No, it was if the case didn't go through, but
Oh,
they brought
okay.
it up.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing. If you're going to apply for a mail-in ballot, you have to get your ballot back to us, and you're going to have to supply postage. If you weren't able to do that, we don't talk about this a lot, we pick up the tab for that. So if you put it in the mail and you don't have a stamp on it, they're still going to deliver it to us, and then our office has to pay for that. But the other thing is we have polls out in the community that you can go to. If you don't think that you could supply a stamp, you can go to your poll.
Oh, I'm not worried about people who are deciding that to not stamp this. I am concerned about people who go out, buy a stamp, and then someone says, wait, these people were required to pay to vote. People who are unwitting victims of a system where they thought they were complying with law.
But not necessarily. They're not required to pay to vote if we have a polling location that they could go to. Right? So that's an option. If they choose to do that, that's their choice. They still have a polling location in their community that they can visit. I understand, and
Yeah,
I have to leave that up to the lawyers.
Yeah. I'm just concerned because people pull rabbits out of the hat at the last minute. How many challenges were there to ballots across the country? All over the place. And how stupid were some of those challenges? Incredibly stupid. But people like you were put in positions where you had to answer questions
Yes.
and even take intimidation and, from voters or angry people. And I'm just concerned that it's all sealed up. Certainly don't want to create a barrier to anyone to vote. That's not acceptable.
No. And, our office, we just operate within the law. All of these decisions are made in Harrisburg, and they come down, and we have to follow the rules. So that's above me. Yeah.
I know, you don't make the rules.
Yeah, I certainly don't. I'm not sure that anyone would listen if I did, so. Okay, so no naked ballots, right? What we call a naked ballot is a ballot that's not put into the yellow secrecy envelope. And that is an issue. If your ballot comes to our office and we can see through the envelope, we can see your ballot, usually we can see the yellow envelope. If we catch it, again, we're gonna call you, and we're gonna let you know that your ballot is going to be challenged on Election Day, because it will be. And what happens when your ballot is challenged on Election Day is the Board of Elections ultimately has to make that final decision on whether your ballot will be counted or not. So they have a couple of meetings throughout the day, and they look at all the challenged ballots and they decide if they're going to be counted or not. How do you return your ballot? So you can use the mail. I would suggest getting your ballot back in the mail at least 2 weeks before the election. You can return it in person to our office. We have a drop box located inside of our office. And then we also have a drop box located outside of the county courthouse. That drop box is open 24/7, so at your own convenience. Yes, sir.
That drop box outside, I understand you have to deliver your own ballot.
That's
You
correct.
cannot deliver somebody else's ballot?
That's correct.
How
Yes.
did you know that?
They have a
Well,
camera.
we,
there a camera?
there are cameras there. Yes, sir. And we do have people doing right to knows right now to look at that video footage.
I'm not allowed to deliver my spouse's ballot?
No. So your spouse has to deliver her own ballot unless she's disabled. And then there's a form. It's called a designated agent form that you both will fill out, and then you can drop that in the ballot box with the ballot.
Thank you.
Again, we don't make the rules. We just have to abide by them.
Like attached to the ballot or just drop that?
You could drop both of them in.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And then you can track your ballot. So what they mentioned in the video is that if you provide your email address on the application for your ballot, we're going to enter your email address into the system, and then you'll get updates about where your ballot's at in the progress. So it'll let you know once we've processed the application, once we've mailed the ballot, once we've received the ballot, and then it'll also let you know if there are any problems with the ballot when we receive it. So if there's a missing date or a missing signature, you'll get an email. Voting early in person, and we talked about this. This is going to start next Monday, so come down to the office. And just a tip, if you bring your driver's license, the whole process will go faster. So if you bring your driver's license, then we can verify that your information matches what we have in the system for you. If you don't bring it, then we run your numbers and they have to go through a verification process where they get compared with PennDOT or the Social Security Administration, and that process can take 15 to 20 minutes. So you don't have to have your ID, but it's a good idea to bring it because it will expedite the process.
Do you expect to have that for the general election too? Voting early in person?
Yes, we have it every election.
Okay.
Yep.
How does it work?
So you come into the office and you have to apply for a mail-in ballot or an absentee. We give you the ballot, and then once you're done, you fold it up just like you would a mail-in ballot. You fold it, put it in the yellow privacy envelope, put it in the declaration, sign it, date it, and then drop it in our drop box. And then we will record it as returned, and we put it in a safe, locked up location until election day when we're allowed to start opening them. It's an easy process. It's convenient, it's secure, it's with us. You know, you don't have to worry about the mail and things getting lost. All right, so what to do? I forgot to mail my ballot. On election day, bring your ballot in envelopes to the polling place and surrender it to vote on the machine. I changed my mind. I'd rather vote in person. Same as above. Bring your ballot in your envelopes to the polling place. I lost my ballot or my dog ate it, and that does happen. You'd be surprised how many times we get that call. My dog ate my ballot. So on election day, go to your polling place and ask for a provisional ballot. And as I mentioned earlier, the provisional ballots do get counted, but they go through a process, a discovery process, if you will. So we have to make sure that you haven't already voted before we count the provisional ballots. So if you just moved and you go to the poll that's closest to your house, but you didn't update your voter record, you go to the poll that's closest to your house, they're gonna say, you're not registered here. You have to go across town back to your old polling location. You don't wanna go, so they'll give you a provisional ballot, and it'll be partially counted. So any candidate that would be on your old ballot will get counted. In this election, it would be all of them because they're all the same, except for the Republican. The Republicans have their local committee running this election, so that will be different for every precinct. But the Democratic ballot is the same throughout the county. Voting in person on election day. How do I find my polling place? You can go to vote.pa.gov/polling place. We also have a link to this on our Erie County website. I recommend that you check your voter status rather than checking your polling place, especially if you moved within the past year. Because if you check your polling place, all they're asking you to do is put in your address. And you put in your address and it's going to say, you go here. But that might not be the case if you didn't update your voter record. So I would always check your voter status. That's going to tell you where we actually have you registered to vote. Oh.
Can your children go with you like that?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. You can take your kids. If you need assistance voting, you can take someone. You can designate a helper. You have to fill out a form. But yeah, your kids are welcome to go with you. It's a good learning experience, I think, for the kids. So first-time voter. If it's your first time voting, period, or your first time voting at a new poll, they're going to ask you for ID. So these are some of the forms of ID that you can show. We have a student ID, voter registration card, Pennsylvania driver's license or a PennDOT ID card, the U.S. passport, the ID issued by any Commonwealth agency, an ID issued by the U.S. government, a U.S. Armed Force ID, or an employee ID. So there are a lot of different things that you can use when you're going to the polls for the first time. A non-photo ID issued by the Commonwealth, a non-photo ID issued by the U.S. government, a firearm permit, a current utility bill, current bank statement, a current paycheck, or a government check. What if I run into the problems at the polls? Ask for a provisional ballot at your polling place. If you run into an issue, they don't want to give you a ballot, they're saying you're not registered there, they can't find your name, just get a provisional ballot. As long as you're registered to vote in Erie County, it's going to count. And call our office. Our phone number is, I don't have, oh yes I do, 814-451-6275. Call our office. We can call the judge of elections. We can look things up in our records. If they can't find your name, a lot of times we can look through the poll book on our end and tell them what page it's on. Or we can iron out any issue that you're having at the poll. So just give us a call. And this is another video. Let me see if I can get this one to play.
It's my sister's birthday, and I need to find just the right gift.
Go to 1-800-Flowers.com.
They have tons of great birthday.
I'm a poll worker so I can participate in the democratic process.
I'm a poll worker so I can help my community exercise their right to vote.
I work the polls to stay civically engaged.
I'm a poll worker because I want to be a part of the election process.
I'm a poll worker to help make the elections run smoothly.
I think being a poll worker is important because it gives people an opportunity to see the behind the scenes of election processes.
I think that there's a lot of questions that especially young people have about if your vote's actually getting counted. And I think that's one of the best ways to see how the process works and how effective it actually is.
What interests me the most about the voting process is that it's not only people casting votes, but there's also a lot of people who have to work the polls in order for it to work perfectly.
I'm only 17, so I wanted to get involved in the democratic process, but because I can't vote, I thought that the best way to do that would be to work the polls.
What interests me the most about the voting process is that it's an opportunity that everyone gets to play in a sense. It's where everyone can put aside their differences and come to the voting booth and join together for a common goal.
I'm a poll worker so I can earn extra money.
I'm a poll worker so I can complete my community service hours for graduation.
I'm a poll worker so I can give back to my community.
I'm a poll worker to protect my country's democracy.
And I'm a poll worker because of my civic duty.
I'm a poll worker because I'm not able to vote yet, but I want to participate in the democratic process.
Okay, thank you, Raven. So we use that video because Erie County just started a student worker program this year. So we have 40 students from across the county getting involved and working the polls this election. So we're really excited about that. But if you want to become a poll worker, you can visit our website. You would go to eriecountypa.gov, departments, elections and voting, and on our poll workers page, there's a spot to sign up. So you just enter your name, your address, phone number, contact information, and then our coordinator is Sue Sheffield. She is a wonderful woman, and she does a great job with the poll workers. So you could contact her, and she'll get you all set. The pay is, in Erie County, it's between $185 to $220. So it's a great way to participate. And that's really it. And we, again, the Committee of 70 and Better Civics, the League of Women Voters of PA, and the Department of State all work together to put this PowerPoint together. I'm kind of the middleman here, just giving you the information. Do you guys have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
What is the voting age in Pennsylvania?
It's 18.
And is that true across the country? Or does each state decide that?
It's across the country, 18, yes. Now, we have student poll workers this year. They're not able to vote, but they have to be 17 years old, and they have to work with their school to apply. So they have to have a good grade point average, and their parents have to be on board. There's a whole process for students, but we're hoping to train them to become good voters and maybe poll workers in the future. Any other questions about the voting process? Oh,
Wait for the mic. Wait for the mic, please.
I'm an independent and choose not to affiliate, and it has filing and registering as an independent is not a party affiliation, it's a non-affiliation. So I don't understand why I can't vote. Number two, coming back into Pennsylvania in a state with such restriction, have you ever been sued for disenfranchising people from voting?
No, we have not been sued for disenfranchising anyone from voting. The Pennsylvania primary is for the parties only, for the Democratic and the Republican Party.
I don't agree with that. But anyway, that's not an issue. I've voted every place else I have lived, and voting is very important to me. And to me, the primary is the main election, because that sets up who's running in the general election. And coming from California, I got information, and I got a friend to send me the latest bulletin, and they send a booklet with all the bills, all the measures, all the candidates, pros and cons. And so you have information that is not coming from the bias of a political party, but an independent agency that pulls all of this information together. And I find getting information of who people are, what they stand for, is exceedingly difficult in Pennsylvania. And again, disenfranchises people from voting.
You know, that would be something you want to talk to your state representative about. I know that there's been some discussion in Harrisburg about opening up the primaries, but that's not obviously something that's happened yet. There is a good website, Ballotopia, that I would recommend. They have a lot of information on all of the candidates. You just put your state in there, and I think there's even a spot to narrow it down to your county in the municipal elections, and it has a lot of information about the current candidates.
Everybody has access to computer and online.
Okay.
So again, you're disenfranchising people from voting.
Our office is not affiliated with any of the candidates, and it would.
Make a difference. You're running the ballot. You're running the election. And if you're going to have people voting, you need to have information accessible to all levels, all educational levels, and not everyone has access to a computer or access to get in or the training to run a computer. If you haven't had one, people don't know how to navigate computers.
No, I understand that. And a lot of those organizations that are sending out information like that are third parties. They're not affiliated with
That's right.
the voter registration offices. We don't have the capability to do that.
Is there anything like that though here?
So we have the League of Women Voters, we have the Committee of 70. Those two organizations specifically work hard to get information out to people.
Hard copies or is it all digital?
Well, I haven't received anything in the mail from them. I'm not sure what they have available, but I would say a phone call to either of those organizations, especially the League of Women Voters here in Erie. I think they'd be able to provide some information for you.
Excuse me. Yeah, a couple questions. Okay, I guess number one, I didn't realize that the mail-in ballot wasn't post-paid. I thought so you got to put a stamp on that then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a new, I didn't realize that. And then number two, can you be both a poll watcher and a poll worker?
No.
Okay, so, see, because they have me signed up as a poll watcher, which I don't really feel comfortable doing because I just don't feel I know enough about it to go telling anybody what to do or not do, you know? And so I should, in that status, if I wanted to move on to the,
To be a
to the
poll
other
worker?
category, right?
Yeah. Let me give you
Okay.
this application. I'd
Yeah.
be excited to take it back with me.
Yeah, well, I was interested in doing this simply because, that would make me more equipped to, I guess, know what's going on, to be a watcher.
Yes,
in the future.
absolutely. So the difference between a poll watcher and a poll worker, a poll watcher is usually appointed by a candidate or one of the parties. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are able to appoint watchers. And what they do is they sit at the poll and they make sure that everything is running according to law, that voters are being treated the way that they're supposed to, that there's nothing funny going on. And they can write down a list of all of the voters that show up at the polls. Poll workers are hired by the county to work at the polls on election day. So it's a little bit different.
Okay, and then, so how long would I have in that association, that poll watcher thing?
I'm not affiliated with any of the candidates or parties that hired you. I don't know who you were watching for, but you want to contact them.
Okay, and then
tell
have them
them
do
that
it
you're not.
pretty much ASAP, yeah, because we're
Yeah.
getting down to the crunch here.
Yeah.
Okay, and then last but not least, yeah, this I'm surprised that we have this differentiation between the absentee ballot, or not the absentee, but the mail-in ballot, and then the one for being ill, or what was that, absentee?
Mhm.
Yeah, why have both of those? It just seems like that would be something that would lead to problems down the road by, having the two.
I think
So-
every staff member in our office would agree with you, but we've always had the absentee ballots. When they introduced Act 77 in 2019, they introduced the mail-in ballot, but they weren't able to remove the absentee ballot, so they had to just add it in as another option.
My first voting was in 1960, and I was 25 years old, and that's the first time I could vote because in that day, there was no absentee ballot in Pennsylvania. When I was in college and seminary, I could not vote because I lived in Ohio and Illinois. So the absentee ballot has come in since then, thank goodness. But my question is, somewhere in the news recently, I've discovered, or I saw that the different counties in Pennsylvania run their elections somewhat differently. Can you make any comment about what differences you're aware of from county to county?
Yeah, so one of the major differences is ballot curing, right? And so what we call ballot curing is when you come into the office and you sign your name, your mail ballot, you sign your name because we called you and said you didn't sign your name, you come in to fix it. A lot of other counties don't allow that, but some counties do. And all of that is decided by either their commissioners or, like in Erie County, we have a board of elections. And there might come a time where we have a sitting board of elections who decides we don't want to allow ballot curing anymore. So that could change here in Erie too. It just depends on who's in charge of elections at each county. And it also depends on how their solicitor interprets the Pennsylvania election code, because my understanding is that they all interpret it a little bit differently.
Could you give an example?
Yeah, just like I had just mentioned, the ballot curing. So that's one example. Another example, some counties have chosen to accept the election integrity grant. Erie County is one of those counties. Along with the taking the grant, there are some stipulations. There are some things that we have to do. Like, we have to start opening our mail ballots at 7 a.m. The counties that choose not to get that grant can wait until the next day to open their mail-in ballots. So there are stipulations that we have to do. There are things that we have to do because we decided to get that grant. Now, that grant funding has been amazing to our office. It has really opened up a lot of potential. We purchased a ballot sorter machine for our office. So it helps us to sort the ballots, and it cuts down on the amount of staff that we have to have, because it used to take us a long time to sort them. We used to sort by precinct. We have 149 precincts. When you get 30,000 ballots in the mail, and you're going to have 10, 15 people sorting the ballots. Now we have a machine to do that. We purchased ballot extractors. So on election day, when we're allowed to open up the ballots, we have 2 machines that actually help us. It's a pretty cool thing to see. The ballots you put the ballots into this machine, a big stack of ballots, and they come down one at a time, and it slices them, and then it suctions open, so you just keep pulling the ballots out. And it has expedited the process tremendously. It used to take us 4 or 5 days. Now we can do it in 1 day. So the election integrity grant has been, it's just been amazing. You're welcome. And we're also able to purchase cameras with that election integrity grant so that we can now monitor our ballot boxes and the staff in the office. And it's been a wonderful opportunity. Okay.
So my question is about the Board of Elections.
Mm-hmm.
How are they chosen? Are they appointed? And who are they appointed by?
No, they are not appointed. They're voted in. So when you vote for county council, you're also voting for the Board of Elections. The county council members, we have 7 county council members in Erie, PA, that all get voted into office, and they also sit on the Board of Elections.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Unless they're running that year. If they're running that year, they're not allowed to sit on the Board of Elections. Yeah.
Just to supplement the point earlier made about the independent voters, we are not allowed to vote in those elections under the guise of this is either Republican or Democratic Party business. But just to clarify, it is our tax dollars that pay for that election. So we do feel disenfranchised. I realize you're not responsible for that, but I just want to provide that feedback.
Okay, no, that's wonderful. I think that the conversation needs to be had with your state representatives. It is them who can change this. They can change this, and then we will abide by the new laws.
We understand that, but we also understand that every one of those people is beholden to one party or another, and opening up a new venue for voters is not necessarily in their best interests.
How long has that been a law? Has it been a law forever?
As far as I know, I can't remember a time when Pennsylvania had open primaries. They've always been closed, yeah. As far as I know, and I apologize, I've been with the office for 12 years, so it's always been a closed primary.
Been closed. They've always been closed for over a century.
On that issue, as I understand it, for instance, in California, the open primary not only gives the vote to independents, but it allows people from one party to vote in the other party. Yes. So it essentially eliminates party affiliation from an issue in the primary. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct, Howard.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of us would like to see in Pennsylvania. But we can't do it yet because of our stubborn legislature.
Everybody's on the same ballot.
I like that. I really like that idea. You know, I can totally agree with that.
Do you know what's happening to the legislation?
As far as
Making changes.
there's always election agendas on the table, but nothing has been passed for a while since Act 88, which was a couple of years ago, which gave us the election integrity grants. So there's always discussion. Yeah, I know there was some discussion about opening the primary up a year and a half ago, but it didn't get anywhere. You know,
The proposals that came up generally allowed for an independent voter to request either a Republican or Democratic ballot. That was my experience as a voter in North Carolina, where I was able, as an independent voter, to choose one of those. But that presents an entirely different conundrum, because one year I very much wanted to vote for a statewide candidate on the Democratic primary and vote for our local sheriff on the Republican side. I was unable to vote for one of the two because I had to make a choice, so it wasn't really an open primary.
yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. You know, but the conversation, I don't think that we want to stop having the conversation. I just think we want to be talking to the right people. You know? So would anyone here like to apply for a mail-in ballot? I have some applications. Anyone?
What's the date of the primary?
It is April 23rd.
Yeah, I need one.
Okay. Would you like to change your party also? Was that you? Okay. You can fill out these applications and I'll take them back with me today and get you all set.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.